or share.
Sure.
Or Prince. Hello, we're talking with Julietta. She is Italian,
Yeah.
and she is not a sex worker. You've never had sex for money.
No.
Has anyone ever offered to pay you money to have sex?
No.
No one ever has.
No.
Would you do it if they asked you?
Yes, I think so.
You would?
It's something I'm thinking on since like 10 years. So
Really?
yeah,
10 years you've been thinking about this?
since we opened the sexy shop, I'm engaged in the group. I'm engaged in the sexy shop, which manages sexy shop for women.
Right.
Yeah,
Say that again. Your sexy shock.
shop.
And what is that? Explain that to people.
It's a kind of activist group. It's a women collective. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Even it's not separate them and not women's only. I mean, we have lots of cooperation with men or transsexual or whatever. And like in 2000, we were, I mean, I'm Italian, so if you have some idea of the Italian culture about sexuality and sexual rights and pleasure or joy and happiness.
We put the Catholic Church in there somewhere
Yeah.
too? Yes.
Yes, the Catholic Church is really, I mean, it's something that really conditions people's lives. So we were like in our 20s, and we were like, okay, we want to do our feminist. I mean, we want to be engaged somehow in feminism, but we didn't want to be like a group of women talking or something only, or looking at feminism only from the right perspective, but also to the liberating side. Like, I want to be free, I want to enjoy my life, I want to be able to talk my sexuality and to discuss and have places and things. And so we thought, what is the most weird things we can do? And it's opening a sexy shop. Because we were the first in Italy. Like
You were the first
sex shop opened by women
Oh, by women.
and managed by women and I mean and addressed to women, not women's only, but it was like. And so we started this process of thinking, okay, it was like, okay, sexuality is like the ground zero of politics. It's like where we have to go back there just to start our path in feminism. We have to start from sexuality and desire and pleasure and all the things. And so we started to go around in normal sexy shops that were really bad, like big dicks, like skin colors, or like the horrible stuff. Like how you can play with that. I mean, how can enjoy with that. Yeah, it was like.
I always wonder, like, who is going to use this penis?
Yeah, but I mean,
that's
you can
6
use
feet
that.
long
But if it's like pink with something, I will enjoy it. But I don't like this like kind of natural. I mean, if I want something natural, I can find it in a man. But I would like something that makes me play with my fantasy and my desires and other things. And so we started to go around in all these places. And we said, okay, so we don't want to do things like that. We want to make a place where people go inside and feels comfortable. You know? And when a woman comes in, she said, okay, I feel good. I can take a cup of tea and discuss sex and look for a dildo or I think things like that. And this was the first level we want, just to create a space where women can talk about sexuality and then from that move forward for sexual rights, civil rights and all that. And we did it. We went to London. It was like 2000, and 3 of us. We went to London. And yes, and have you ever heard about it? It's kind of big, huge sexy shop in London. Yeah. And we talked with those women that were really, I mean, we were looking for somewhere we can buy toys that were not so, I mean, like the ones we saw in the bad sexy shop. And so we went there and we like spent, I don't remember what, we made a party before just to gather the money, and we go there, we spent all our money in sex toys, and then we went back, but it was a funny thing, so our sexy shop first was in a squat, So we had no legal, recognition of that. So we just opened all the sex toys, put in our luggages. So when we passed through,
security.
the security stuff was really fun because we were like 15 vibrators in our bags. And I remember that the girl boss looked at me and said, "It's for personal use." And she was like that. With this bag full of vibrators and people. It was really funny.
That is funny.
And then we opened a sexy shop. That was actually a sexy shop and also a place where we can meet and talk and do things. And everything begins.
And did people buy stuff?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of, because there is a very strong LGBTQ community in Bologna, which is kind of more activist and more
Lesbian,
underground.
gay, bi.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's less mainstream than the Milano scene or Rome one. Bologna, it's more mixed. I don't know. It's more easygoing. I don't know. And so we had these kind of people that was interested in what we were doing, and also some women or feminists that were like, "Hey, you girls, what are you doing?" And for the first time, they really, they didn't appreciate what we were doing. They said, "Yeah, that is not feminist. Feminists do not deal with sex toys. Sex toys is something machist or something that's, it's for women's coordination, Why do you use this?" And we said, "Okay, no, it depends on, it's like an hardware. A toy is an hardware. You can, make different softwares to run in it, different concept, And if the dildo is pink and I'm selling the dildo to you, that is different. If the object is different and there is a man like smelling one that's tell you that. Do you know what I mean?
Of course I do, yeah.
That situations and relations among people make things different.
Yeah.
So, and we were right. Because the space of sexy shop, also the shop itself became more and more, women like that, and men as well, because you can come and buy a condom without being looked like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or buy a dildo, or a jelly, everything, like feeling comfortable. And then we make courses on using sex toys and sexual practices, like bondage or fisting and all that things.
So there was instruction for people as well.
Yeah, there were courses like to talk about sexuality and learn like specific sexual practices. And that's really, maybe in the United States, for sure in the United States that is more common.
Yes.
But for sure in Italy is not. If you talk about sexuality explicitly, if you talk about that's really strange.
Yes.
You're weird. We're weird. No problem.
Right. Well, in certain parts of America, this has become much more in the mainstream culture. But there are still many places in America where if you, in casual conversation, mention the clitoris, for example, people will look at you like, what? Like, A, they don't even know what it is, and B, like, why are you saying that word? Don't say that word anymore. So I feel like just to bring this into the mainstream of conversation is, in a way, like a revolutionary act. There's a place in Berkeley called Good Vibrations. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of idea where there's a safe place and they have all these fun stuff and books and videotapes and DVDs and toys but it's also a place where you can go and ask questions if you are curious about something or you're confused or.
Also on HIV, for instance, because like in Italy, like in us 4 or 5 years. Heterosexual men and women are feeling like they are islander. They don't have, HIV doesn't exist anymore. And that's a big problem because HIV is still there and people are still dying or at least living a worse life they could live without HIV. So also like we make like lots of things on Femidom, which is the kind of female condom that you can use, that it's kind of is a thing you can use yourself, so you can like negotiate the relation if you have a male partner or if you use toys. If you use dildos or even if you have a lesbian relationship. And And that's, for instance, and the local, HIV activists
Yeah.
made a video that it was really interesting because it was kind of pedagogic video. It was vagina, and they were showing you how to put everything, how it works, and how you can do, and if it hurts somehow, how to. And it was really, and we projected that, and because we made a kind of. So it was a party, it was a talk, and we had a glass of wine, and they presented this new feminism and like invited women to think about that, and at least just to try it once, if they see if they were comfortable with it and it was good. And lots of people went out from the room because of the video, because they felt that this vagina was like hurting them.
Yeah, right in their face.
Yeah, like that's strange because it wasn't erotic at all. It was like
right,
really,
right.
it was really medical. Like
it's anatomical, yes.
Yeah, it was like put this here and look at this and be. I mean, it wasn't erotic, but people feel like embarrassed.
Yeah. No, I feel like that kind of inhibition and that repression, I feel like it's still so prevalent in our society. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, sexuality is as natural a part of the human experience as eating a meal or breathing air or whatever. Do you know Annie Sprinkles, Dr. Annie Sprinkles?
Yeah.
When I first met her, she was performing in Brooklyn, and I was on the bill with her. She was the star, and I was the lowest person on that totem pole. But she was up on stage with a speculum, and you could go on stage and look inside her vagina. And I thought, well, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was blown away by it. Like, that she'd be so brave to be up there and doing it. And like, making jokes and just having such a good spirit and a good nature about it. But I felt like that was one of the most revolutionary things I ever saw in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like, in America there are little pockets of this culture that have been embracing this idea of bringing sexuality into the mainstream, into the discussion. And I'm really glad that it's happening in Italy as well. And where did your interest in sex work and sex workers start?
Because like 1 year after we opened the Sexy Shop, we were like the most pro-sex activists in Italy. I mean, it was our.
You were it, yeah.
I mean, we were like we have been elected that because we were dealing with sex toys and sexuality. So, and we met Pia, the National Sex Workers Civil Rights in Italy, and we fell in love, kind of. We felt like we talk a lot, and she was trying to organize a conference with the Rode Draad in the Netherlands, and it was kind of first conference in possible policies on the sex industry in Italy. And she was looking for someone to help her to organize that, and we thought, why? So it was the other Julius, it was young Sexy Shop, she was in Italy. And so we started to make a group, and we were like 10 women that discussing sex work and what we think about, and just introducing ourselves to think about sex work, what it was and what happened. And we made this meeting. It was kind of a small conference, and it was very nice. And that started. I mean, I guess that, and secondly, we continued to think about why we are not properly sex worker, we should be allied of sex worker right activism. And considering Italian situations, the answer is that if a sex worker is in trouble and she has not the right recognized, I'm in trouble. I mean, because it's kind of normativity and female sexuality and female freedom. If you do or if you don't do sex work, because the law and the public discourse on sex work, prostitution. I mean, it's better to say prostitution because in Italy, when you talk about sex work, you think that sex work is only street work, and there is few that it's aware that there is people working premises, for instance, or they're expert that you see, or I don't know, that dance, or I don't know, but we don't have we have less diversification of works, and on the other side, people is really focused on street work. Like they really think that this, and that was one other point. I mean, sex work is a huge industry.
Yeah.
You can do very different things. Somehow we sell sex toys. We're sex workers.
Yeah.
By our, I mean,
Yeah.
it's there's different ways that sexuality can become something that you earn money through. It's not only selling sex in the street. That is, I mean, the biggest issue in Italy. And now, since about 5 years, they're trying to criminalize street sex work a lot. They're trying with a lot of time, and unfortunately, I guess that in next July they will manage to do that. In the end, just changing the law on the Swedish model. So the argument the government have is that you are kind of immoral. So you in the street with your, I mean, body there, and you're disturbing people, good citizens. I mean, good girls are bad girls, and so we were like, we are on the bad girls side, definitely.
Yeah.
We are bad girls. So we want to fight with other bad girls. I mean, because the line that the government and the public discourse is drawing, like good girls here,
Yeah.
mother covered, not sexy, good girls, and on the other hand, on the other side, there is bad girls. But bad girls are the ones who sell sex for work. But bad girls are also me. I go back to my house at 5 in the night with high heels and dressing as I want, and I'm disturbing as well. So that was the first, I mean, knot we put with us and the sex workers we met, and then we became friends. And we started to share a lot of things, like activists, but also private, and then everything started.
So did your idea of what a prostitute is change when you started to meet these women? Did you have an idea of what they were before you met them?
No. I mean, I was like 19, and I was, my mother is a feminist, like historic one, and I was like educated as prostitution is like the worst things that a woman can be in their life, because it's male subordination and everything. And so that was the idea I had in my mind, because I was young and everything. And after I met Pia, and then I met Porpora. This is the Italian transsexual movement. She's the kind of leader of that, and she's a friend of mine. And I met them, and they didn't fit in the idea I had. And so I was wondering, like, okay, so there's something wrong.
Something off, yes.
And it's me.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, and then I just changed. I mean, I was just change, and I became used to complexity, you know, because I have the feeling that sometimes people need to have clear ideas, like what is bad, and what's good.
Yes.
But that definitely these two definitions, these two differences, often don't exist. I mean, there are lots of gray. There's a range of grays, like and also, and the other things was really interesting to, I mean, learn for me, and then to try to explain it to people with activism and so on. It was that difference of being a sex worker or do sex work, like this identity dimension that every people is trying to who you are. Like, I mean, like if it's an identity that you have on your, and you cannot, I mean, free yourself with that identity, but you don't do sex work 24 hours and 24. I mean, you do that for work. As I'm doing teaching university, I mean, it's the same. I don't do that all the moments of my life. It's not my, and And that was the second thing Sophia and Porpora told me. Let's done things to identity, things to what you do, like, and how the process, and how you are both and more than one thing in your life. I mean, and I remember very well that when Pia told me that is I'm a sex worker, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm an activist, I'm a politician, I'm a lot of things in my life, and so and yeah, that was great. So when me and all the others, sexy shoppers, and when we got that, we say, okay, cool, that's good reason to fight for you and with you and for us as well.
Yeah, this idea that you reduce someone to an identity based on one small part of their life, and that's who they are forever, is it's dehumanizing.
Yeah,
it makes you into this this thing, as opposed to what human beings are, which is, as you say, a mother and a daughter and you know, a stamp collector and someone who wears shoes and whatever, on and on. And I found that in my own life, that sometimes, you know, I'm an author and I'm a dad and I'm a baseball player, but oftentimes when I go to sometimes to universities and I present and I talk, and I'm introduced as, and here he is, the prostitute. As if that's my entire identity. And the irony for me is that I did it when I was 17 years old, you know, 35 years ago. It was a tiny little part of my life. But there is this strong impulse to define, especially in that world, define you by that one activity.
Yeah.
And now I'm interested in also the idea of in America, a lot of the feminists are, as you suggested, like your mother's position of that prostitution, sex work is, you know, is like slavery. It's this this way of the patriarch can keep women down. And what's happened in America is that the feminist movement and the sex worker movement, they fight all the time. And it seems strange to me, because isn't the goal to make a world where we have choices about what we want to do, and don't we all want that? And I'm curious what your thoughts are about feminism and its relationship to sex work.
It's a danger relationship.
It is dangerous, I know.
And I mean, in Italy, for a long time, they have been just separated.
Yes.
Like there were some women of the feminist movement that moved towards sex workers, and there were some kind of dialogues and some cooperation in the late 80s and the beginning of the 90s, and then stopped. Everything was dead, like for almost 10 years. And then there was a kind of generational change. So we born as group, another younger group, feminist group born all around the country, that makes some changes. So we started to have these relations with sex work, but the problem is that, I guess that the problem is around the term self-determination, because that is the problematic, the hot term, because for feminism, self-determination is a very important word. That it's a word that says a lot of things. That says freedom and happiness in your life, and self-determination in sexuality and reproduction, and a lot of things and it evokes a lot of fights and battles, like abortion or I don't know, divorce or all that things. And from the other hand, sex workers use that word, and I think they're really right in using that.
That it's an empowering thing. Yes.
I want to self-determinate. So if I want to self-determinate, I want to be free. That means I want good laws and not bad laws. I want freedom. I want recognition. I want rights and all that things. And they use this word as well. And on these words, there's no agreement. Because from a very traditional feminist point of view, the fact that you're selling sex to a man, that it can't be self-determination.
Yeah.
And the other things that people, feminists, considers, and we had very good conversation and fighting, not only civil conversation, also some struggle, but on the power. Because the feminist assumption is that if you're a woman and you're selling to a man client, he has power. And that is the biggest lie.
It is. It's such a lie.
Definitely. I'm sure about that. All my friends, my sex worker friends, and all my, the phone sex worker I've been working with since last year, that's not true. Power is fluid. And power changes, and sometimes, and if you are the one in the business, if you are the one that is managing the things, you have the power, and that for me it's something that is really difficult to explain, because they don't believe you, even if you are a sex worker. They don't believe me, because I'm considered me or sexy shoppers, because we are considered like the supporters, and so we're not enough.
You're not actually prostitutes.
Yeah, and so that's made no. But they don't believe also sex workers themselves.
I know. I had this terrible argument with this academic. I hate that they call themselves feminists, because to me, it's not really feminist. They're not really advocating for women. There's a whole group of women that they choose to vilify. So I was having this, this argument with this woman who's like, oh, all sex work is bad. It's all about women being some blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well...
But they don't care from sex worker lives. That's the problem.
They don't. And they don't even want to hear. They don't want to hear from someone who's actually done the work. They do not want to listen to this. And it drives me crazy.
Me either. That made me. But the other things is that in Italy, we are really... The discourse on sex work, it's completely covered by the trafficking discourse.
Yes.
Because we have a huge problem of migration in the last 10 years. That has been, it has been a problem, because it was the former Yugoslavia, there was a war there, so lots of women moved, and there were lots of real trafficking, and women were really in trouble. So that's for sure not, I don't want to say that trafficking or slavery don't exist. But on the other hand, by covering the sex worker rights discourse from the trafficking, they are not recognizing sex.
So you lump it all into the same thing.
And this law, they are trying to make this new law on sex work, which is, that's follow the Swedish model.
Right.
So you have to criminalize clients, and you help sex work.
Right.
You help them, like you are really good government, and you have this poor girl. And
these poor dirty girls who need your help.
But the rhetoric on trafficking is really strong on that, because they say they're in slavery. They're not here from their will, and so on. And that's how do you to make them go back in their countries? That is what you really want to do. You don't want illegal migrants. It's not a problem with sex work. You don't want illegal migrants here. You don't want to care about this problem. This is the problem of migration, of people who don't have citizen and with real problems in their life. You don't want to care about that. You want them to go back in their countries. And that's really, it is not honest, intellectually honest. Because there is a lot of people that makes these discourses like, oh, but these poor girls, how you can say that you have, because what we are arguing is that we need a law that says that you can do it legally, that you have rights, that you have insurances, that you have, because that is a work. And they say the argument, against our position is that how can you say that a poor East woman who is who is here, that she doesn't speak Italian, please, how you can, but the problem is that you are so, that you say also poor girl. You know that now with Europe, the European Schengen agreement, the only way to migrate is illegally. And the only way to migrate is through trafficking. So okay, it's a kind of big contradiction.
Yes, it is.
Because you want just to put everything like behind the couch and say, I don't want to see it anymore. Just your problem is I don't want to see them. So if I criminalize clients and I clean street, so what happens in premises, for instance, where trafficked women, real ones, will be a big problem. Because if you move to premises and you are really in slavery, who will help you?
Yeah, you're not visible. You're
How the help units? How people like I don't know, all the units that go in the street and help with condoms and legal assistance, and how would they do that?
Yeah.
If you move and that is, I mean, this drives me crazy, because it's like you want to feel good, so say yourself, oh, poor girls, but in the end, you didn't give a shit to that girl. You just want that when you go down the stairs of your neighborhood,
you don't see them.
You don't see them. You don't see any legs with heels that hurts you. And sometimes maybe you're a client, so that's the other problem. Clients doesn't exist. Where are clients? I really would like to speak with clients. We tried a lot to speak with clients. Like on the website, like putting, hey, do we just want to have a talk? Just exchange, because even if clients just say something, and take a position, a political position, that would be great for the Italian debate.
Yeah.
But nobody is a client.
No one will admit that they pay for sex.
Yeah, and it's weird. So you can see them. So hey, raise your hand. You're a client. Just have a talk. Yeah.
Have you ever paid for sex?
No.
Would you?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah. I would. I think. I don't know. No, I was thinking that maybe it's would be easier for me to pay for sex than to be paid.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Because for the negotiation, if you paid for it, I don't know. No, I don't know if it's true.
And I noticed you have a stud in your tongue.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about that. Did it hurt?
Yeah.
It did hurt a lot.
Yeah. I made when I was 18. I was kind of crazy. I made it in my kitchen table as a
Oh
friend
no!
of mine.
Oh no! Oh God!
Yeah.
That hurts me just to think about it.
Yeah. But I was really happy to have it, so I didn't care about the.
And you like it?
Yeah. It's like 10 years I have it. I'm not planning to take it off. No.
And why did you do it?
I don't know. It was like I was 18 and everybody was doing piercing everywhere, and the bravest things to do was the tongue. And I said, yeah, do it.
I think
and then I had this kind of tongue like that for 1 week.
Oh, right.
Because I live by my own. I live by my own since I am 18. But it was like Sunday, and I have to go to my parents' house for Sunday lunch. and I told them, no, I'm sorry, I have a flu. I'm not feeling bad, because I was like that. I wasn't able to speak or eat anything. So it was like one horrible week. But in the end, it was here. And I never changed it. It's the one that was
really,
15 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. It's made me, I don't know. I write for work, so it's nice to have this. And it's something you play with.
I see, something to play with.
But I'd never think about I have it. Just you say me now that you have these things, but normally I don't think. It's there. Yeah.
I think we're going to close on that. Thank you very much, Julietta.
Thank you, Daddy.